Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Versus Stars podcast. All my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. And remember, click the subscribe button, everybody. This is an amazing episode because Elana Dunkelman boards the mothership. You know her as Rachel on Alert Missing Persons Unit on Fox. Come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Miss Dunkelman. Thank you so much for coming to Versus Stars podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor to speak with you. I look forward to talking with you.
I'm looking forward to talking to you as well.
So we start off with the question of inspiration. So what inspired your love of acting and who your earliest influences?
I started to fall in love with acting quite young. I was always a very dramatic child. And I started doing just after school plays around 11. And I just really fell in love with being on stage and the immediacy of the reactions of the audience. And, you get a lot of attention. So everybody loves that. And then I just kept doing it. And when I graduated high school, this was in Montreal, I didn't want to do anything other than acting. So I went to theater school and went into the industry, and here I am. Some early influences. Oh my goodness. I really love those. You know what? I really like Star Trek growing up. So I watched like Next Gen, and I guess I loved a lot of the actors on that show. So, but if you ask me now, I am more, when I was a kid, I was a Next Gen person. But as of now, I think Deep Space Nine is probably my favorite Star Trek.
Oh, very cool. I'm a very big Star Trek nerd myself. And anyone who watches the show knows, always have a Star Trek guest usually at least every few weeks will come on the show. So big fan, so great taste. Thank you. And Deep Space Nine is my favorite one, though I will say, if Strange New Worlds continues to be that good, I may get that may bump into one if that keeps happening.
Ooh, all right. There's a contender. Okay.
Have you watched? Do you watch the new Star Trek at all?
Here and there. I think that the style is just so different that it's been hard for me to get into it, honestly. But my husband has it on once in a while, and I'll just kind of like peek in and be like, what's going on? What is that? What is what oh, cool. Yeah. So.
Well, definitely live long and prosper, most certainly. So I read that you have a BFA from Concordia University, where you graduated with distinction. Now, what does that mean?
I think it's you just achieved a certain level of GPA. So I got good grades, I guess.
That is awesome. So how did Concordia prepare you for being a great actor?
I felt Concordia was an interesting experience. It was actually my second theater school that I did. I did a 3-year program at Dawson College, which was definitely more hands-on performance, which was a great preparation for being on stage. I want to say it's a little different for on camera. I think that takes experience and a different training than for stage work. And then Concordia was I want to say it was more theoretical because it was definitely more academic based as opposed to performance based, although there definitely were performance classes, but it was a lot of writing essays and, earning that degree. But what I really liked about Concordia was that they brought in guest directors and professors who were very much in the industry. Whereas in the previous theater school, most of my teachers were in their 70s and 80s and weren't like as, in tune with what was going on in the world of performance. So that was definitely a very, I thought that was just such a great opportunity just to be able to pick the brain of people who were in the industry right then and there.
Does one stand up above all the others that guested?
Yes. There was a teacher, his name was Harry Stanjovsky. If you look him up, you've probably seen, like, he's in a ton of film and TV. He's just like one of those Montreal actors who's going to be in every production that comes by. But he just is a powerhouse. He writes, he directs, he acts. He was very inspiring, and I really loved learning with him.
That's cool. So from being, you said Dawson's College and Concordia University, What is the difference in your approach from stage acting to film or TV?
I want to say I think the approach to the text is very similar. So I think it's the same sort of, like, if you want to compare it to something, maybe compare it to sheets of music. So, it's the same sheets of music. It's for me, theater is performing for, if you're going to compare it to music, imagine like, you're going to the symphony.
Yeah.
And there's thousands of people watching you. And so it's a bigger performance style. Whereas I think for film and TV, it's like doing just like a small, like just playing the piano for someone right in front of you. So it's the actual acting is the same. It's just, and I don't want to say the size, it's just, who are you performing for? With the film, you're having a conversation here and the camera's right here. It's just, they just so happen to be listening in and filming the conversation. Whereas theater is, hello, I'm performing to everyone here and we're all in on it.
Is there a difference psychologically in knowing you have a second take on film?
Yeah, 100%. Theater, once you get going, there is no stopping this train. There's no pauses. You got to go. I don't even think I could do it anymore. I think having multiple takes allows you to explore and allows you to deepen the performance and allows you to play. Not that you can't do that on stage. You have rehearsal time to figure those things out and you want to make it fresh every night so it's not boring for the audience. But when you're doing film and it's right then and there, you're allowed to, I wouldn't say completely go off script or do something completely different where your scene partner is like, what the fuck did you just do? But you can kind of let things hit you and see what wealth of emotions comes up that way. So I think there is a bit of like, I never even thought about it that way, that there is a bit of ease that that you're going to have at least 2 or 3 takes. if you're the star, you can have as many takes as you want. If you're not the star, it is 2 to 3.
And well, you're also an accomplished voice actor as well.
Yeah.
You were recently nominated for the Canadian Games Award for Best Female Performance for Phoenix Rising.
Yeah.
So what was the experience like doing Phoenix Rising?
Phoenix is awesome. So that was a Ubisoft Quebec game, and it was I got to play the protagonist, the female protagonist, Phoenix. So you can choose either the male or female voice, and it's an adventure game. They definitely were inspired by Breath of the Wild, so there's a lot of comparison to that. And it was right after Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so Ubisoft Quebec was on a Greek rampage. They had all that Greek stuff, so they wanted to make another game. And I had worked on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so the team already knew me, and I was very grateful to be brought on board. And we recorded some of that during the pandemic, so it was nice to have something else to focus on while the world was falling apart. So and it was a funny game too, so there is a lot of humor, so that was really fun to be able to go to the recording studio and just make the writer laugh and have a good time and bring some levity to the world.
Because I mean, you've done other animation as well. Is regular animation and video game voice work different in how it's dealt with?
I think it depends on the project. I'm finding that animation is, although this is a generalization. So I think the style of animation is becoming not what we see on TV, but what we hear is becoming a little bit more naturalistic. Again, take that with a grain of salt. There are obviously shows that are still wacky and crazy voices, especially for kids. But for adult shows, I want to say, based on Bob's Burgers and Archer and all those types of shows, everything's a little bit more natural. Like it's their voices most of the time. And then for video game, that depends on the video game. Like I there's some video games where it's definitely way more cartoony. Phoenix was definitely a bigger performance style than Assassin's Creed, even though it's the same company in Ubisoft Quebec, but the style of it was a little bit different. And to me, I think it's just, even if you're playing, a toaster, you still got to be truthful. So truthfully understanding what's going on in the scene. And even if you have a crazy voice, still being connected to something that is of this planet and of our human experience is so important. So I know that sounds crazy, but even if you're playing, I auditioned for a barn the other day. Like, you still gotta be like
a barn.
real.
How do you play a barn?
She was like a teacher. Like, she was just very excited to see the kids and be. I don't know what I did. I had a moment. Like, I had like a moment where I'm like, this is my life. No, it was great. It was really fun.
So I'm sure the important question is, are you good at playing Phoenix Rising?
The actual game. On story mode, yeah. I got into it. I think I did play as my voice, so I don't know. I feel like it was fun to hear myself. But I am I don't want to age myself, but I grew up on NES and like Sega Genesis. So once the toggle thing came in, like, too much for me. Millennial. So we have an Xbox. Ubisoft was brilliant and sent us a code, so I was able to get it and play it. And I definitely rage quit several times because it's a puzzle. There's puzzles in it, and if it was so frustrating. But I played. I enjoyed it. It was really fun. But I definitely stayed on story mode for the bulk of it.
Well, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm Atari, Super Nintendo from back in the day. So yeah, that's for me. Everything moves in 2D. When it gets to the 3D stuff, I'm totally lost at that point. I don't even try shooter games for that.
I remember when my friend got N64 and we started playing the Mario game, and I couldn't do it. Like, my brain didn't work that way. I'm like, I left, right, up, down. I can't do that way. I don't get it.
It gets ingrained in you. Like, I do indie writing I do indie comic book writing. And sometimes I think about the scene. I think in 2D, like, dude, going across. I'm like, fucking video games. It got me stuck in that thought process. So you now appear as Rachel on Fox's Alert Missing Persons Unit. So how do you get involved with the project, and what interests you in the series?
I got an audition from my agent, and the description. When you get a audition, typically you'll get something called a breakdown, which basically breaks down who they're looking for and what type of characteristics they're looking for. So once I read it, I was just so hopeful that I would get it. She's described as, so she's a medical examiner, but even though she deals with death all the time, she's still positive and full of life. And they described her as a bottle of friggin' sunshine, in quotes. And when I saw that, I was like, that's me. I can do that. So my husband was wonderful, and he helped me read for it. And then I got the call that they were excited to have me on board, and then had to head off to Montreal to shoot. And the series is very exciting. It's a show about the missing person unit in Philadelphia. And every episode, someone goes missing, and the team has to work together to find the missing person and bring them back to their loved ones. Lots of excitement, heart-pumping action. And then the characters are also pretty cool too. I've been really impressed with the diversity and just very different types of characters than you normally see on a show like this. So it's been really fun tuning in every week.
So in thinking in your approach to Rachel, how did you make Rachel yours? Like, was there some idiosyncrasy or something you added, you made it to make it your character?
My approach to acting, especially in this day and age, I'm going, I want to say this with a caveat that I know that this can sound like it comes off as lazy, but we live in the era of everyone carrying around a phone, and every phone has a camera, and we are so hyper realistic now. So hyper realistic. Whereas before, if you wanted to play a character, you would, put on like slap on a whole bunch of makeup and put like, like do something weird, put on an accent. And nowadays they want you to be you, because that's as truthful as you could possibly be. So yes, I can definitely play a range of characters, but the range used to be like, I could play anything. And I don't think that's true. I think it's, you have life experience, and there's things that I could play that I haven't experienced. Like, I've never been a medical examiner, nor do I want to be. That is definitely not something that I want to do. But like, I can bring myself to many different things, but there's you can only go so far. You're still going to be you. And I think that's the beauty of acting, is that like, you're just bringing your truthful experience to whatever project that you're going towards. So there was a lot of analysis in terms of reading through the script and understanding where she was coming from and what she wanted. And then that was just about bringing myself to Rachel and kind of meeting halfway, that it's me, but it's not me. So I mean, she's kind of similar to me, so like that was pretty easy. But she's a little bit more sarcastic, a little bit more forward. So just finding those elements in myself, and allowing those parts of myself to come out that I wouldn't normally behave in such a way.
So as you said, you're not a forensic medical examiner in real life.
No.
we can read about that. So did you have to research what one did? How difficult was it to do the jargon? I'm sure you were stuck with all the medical jargon that
And actually, I only had one little bit of medical jargon, thankfully. The scenes that I'm in are actually more about the dynamic, like the personal relationship between myself and another character. His name is C, and he's played by P.D. Gibson. And he's the regular on the show, and just following their dynamic and how their relationship builds. So my scenes aren't too jargony. I have like a little moment where I have to do a little jargon, but that was totally cool. I think just to understand where she was coming from, I watched some YouTube videos and realized that I don't want to be a medical examiner at all, but totally respect it. But there wasn't too much, a ton of preparation in terms of what she does as the medical examiner. I wanted to know for my own, my own education and bringing some truth to it. But it was more just about having like a really lovely dynamic with PD, and that was fun. So that was the easiest part, just like having a great time with PD. So that was fun.
So is there something brewing between the characters Rachel and C?
We'll see. The season finale, 2 parts on Monday coming up. So we'll have to see what happens then. I've been in 2 episodes thus far. No spoilers. Was very flirtatious in the first one, and then the second one might have pushed him to go on a date with me. Maybe. We'll have to watch the episode. And then we'll see what happens in the 3rd episode. So we'll see how that comes to a conclusion.
That sounds very cool. So I mean, I assume that means there's going to be more coming from Rachel then, because this is going to have to develop.
My hope is that people love her, and then I'm not, suddenly living in Costa Rica season 2 and sending postcards to see. Who knows?
So what is the life like as a recurring character? Is it hard to jump back into character after you've been away with for a little while, or is it easy just to step right back in?
It was interesting. I think that's definitely something to take into consideration in terms of making sure you're performing in a similar style. It was such a pleasure to be a reoccurring. I'm a Canadian actor. Most of the time, if we're being honest, I'm on for a day or 2, maybe more if I'm lucky. Thankfully I've had a few bigger projects on some rom-coms recently, but typically it's, you know, a couple of days, and that's fine. And I love being a Canadian actor. But when that happens, unless you're starting on day one, typically you're trying to figure out how to fit into the machine that's already going, and just being, you know, as amenable as possible and pleasant and easy to work with. And not saying that if you have multiple days, you can't be easy to work with, but, you know, you're there for one day, you're trying to learn everybody's name, and then you're never seeing these people again, unless you work on them on another project with them. And just trying to fit into that dynamic. And what was really cool about coming back was that I already knew people, and I kind of figured out how the set was working. And on top of that, PD messaged me before we even shot, just to hop on a Zoom and just chat and just, you know, get to know each other a little bit before we started shooting. And that was so lovely, and like I felt so welcomed. And that was not that I wouldn't do that for other people, but it was a really like, it was a really nice thing that he did. And if I'm ever in that position where I'm, you know, on top of the call sheet, I would definitely try to reach out to other actors just to say hi, and you know, so that it's not so overwhelming when you get there.
See, that's always wondered about when I said like that, when you have like this established cast and you have a recurring character, that the established cast, I always think they'd be like, who the hell is this person? You know, you're outside our little clique of actors. It's nice that they weren't like that.
No, and I was there's a powerhouse cast. Like the ensemble is some very accomplished actors, and most of my scenes were with PD Gibson, but like Scott Kahn's on it. Like, it's crazy. He's amazing. And the day that I had that ensemble scene, everybody was so nice, and they had been shooting for months at this point, and came over and shook my hand and asked who I was. And it was so welcoming. Like they had such a lovely dynamic, so easy to kind of fit right in. Those people are professionals and they know what they're doing, and that's part of the job, is not just the acting, it's also the on-set dynamic, and they're great at it, both acting and dynamic.
So when can our listeners find Alert Missing Persons Unit?
So it's on Mondays on Fox at 9 p.m. Eastern. It is coming up to the season finale, so episode 9 and 10 will be this coming Monday, which will be, I don't know if this show will have aired already, but if you weren't able to watch it, then I'm sure you can stream it on Fox or your local streaming service.
Very cool. So what's next for you?
I'm actually also a writer. And my writing partner and I are working with a production company in Toronto, and we're working on a fun, lovely rom-com. And very cool. So we're starting to chug into we're almost done the treatment, which is basically just 10 pages of story written out without lines about how the movie goes. And then we're going to move into the actual script writing soon. So hopefully that'll be on your screens sometime late this year.
Very cool. So you come back on the show and talk about it, okay?
Absolutely. And we'll talk more about Star Trek.
That'd be absolutely awesome. Mrs. Dunkelman, has been an absolute pleasure to talk.